All right, I'd like to call the Planning Board, Town of Acton Planning Board meeting to order on Thursday, December 6th at 6:02. We designate an alternate tonight, Bevan. The minutes we are gonna table till next meeting. Can we all stand for the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we're gonna open up the public hearing for Seth McCoy's Trucking and Excavating on 2491 H Road, Lot 207-001. He's here for an applicational conditional use for stump and brush disposal, recycle, resale, expansion of mining, but that's a later date. I'd like to thank the members of the public coming out tonight. We'll wait till Seth does his little presentation and then address the chair for questions or might be table if anything. Okay. Thanks, Seth.
Basically just go over what we want to do.
Yeah, just so they can understand what's going on and, you know.
So, I'm gonna play on H Road, and we'd like to be able to dispose of, actually probably disposing, we'd like to be able to take in stumps and then process them on site. It's a wood processing area. That's what it is. It's a permit rule, by rule of the DEP. It's a fairly simple process, it's very low impact on anything. Give people a place to get rid of them, and we'd like to do that, process them on site and reuse it for, you reuse the product for erosion control or stormwater, like, to protect, I don't know, do you guys know what erosion mix is? So that's basically what we make.
When you indicated that you were going to be taking in stumps, can you explain to the public how the stumps will be brought in? Because there may be concerns about traffic volume and so forth. Are they coming in by your truck? Can other people bring them in? How will that work?
We are open to the public, so if anybody wanted to bring them in, they could, if they're be involved. And in the state of Maine, you can legally carry stumps on your own site, so a lot of people don't do it. The stumps, I don't have a percentage because I don't, but the stumps most likely come from our job sites, and we'd be processing on site, and reusing the product. Is that?
Thank you.
Then you're gonna store the stumps on a pad and whatnot.
Yeah, we have to construct a pad, and you have to start on, you limit the size of the piles, just the area the piles can take. The product has to move within the state, monitors that part of it pretty heavy. It's low risk, but there's a product plan and some other things that we have to follow. I don't know how often they inspect, but I know the guys from DEP basically showed up and they feel like you have to basically be ready all the time.
What about the noise level on the stump grinding? I mean, it's the noise level already just from...
See, can you come up to the mic, please? That way, people...
Is it open? It's not open for...
No, it's not open for questions yet from public.
Yeah.
We're just
But
getting...
we'll open it up to the public in a minute.
Right.
Yeah,
Sorry.
thank you. This is all being recorded, so people at home, we would want everyone to be able to hear what your questions were and what the answer was. Thank you.
That's pretty much...
You want to tell us a little more about the pad?
It's a pad basically constructed of glacial till, and then there's 6 inches of gravel on it, and the stump pile has to be on the pad. It has to be 2 feet above the water table, and you just have to maintain that pad.
Did you talk about the size of your pad and what you're looking for?
Oh, okay, 3 acres.
Okay.
You say that again, how many acres?
We can't go over 3 acres.
And the size of your pit is?
37. And it's not uncommon for people doing what I do to have this permit. I'm just trying to follow, I mean, I found doing this, it's easier to follow rules than it is to try to not follow, so I'm trying to do everything, but basically any place in the mine would be, I should remember the word, but you have to be like 100 feet from the water, and every place in the mine is 250. You have to get, there's a bunch of parameters that the state should follow. You have to be certain distance from people as well. But mining is pretty much double all of that. So any place in the mine would be way easier to put in than any place else.
Any other from us?
And Seth, in terms of the, traffic, you don't anticipate any more traffic, the limit on your existing conditional use?
No, I mean, for the most part.
That won't go up.
It's a backup. I mean, they go up there with the stumps, they all stand up. Or products for thousands.
But you won't increase over the number, I think it's 50 in the,
50 trucks a day.
yeah.
I'm sure the public's also aware that Seth McCoy's not the only pit in the area, so that's not just his trucks traveling that road. There are 2 other active mining facilities or extraction? Three, other than yourself, there's 3?
Your Lamb Safe Depot.
Oh,
Curtis.
and, yeah, you're right, 3. So,
Maybe it would be helpful if you talked a bit about how the stumps, how frequently they have to be turned and checked for increases in heat in terms of concerns about potential fire exposure. Thank you.
As I said earlier, the piles have to be turned over and moved on. So basically, after a year. So you pile them up in piles of less than 10,000 square feet, and they get round, and then you have your mulch piles. And the mulch piles are, in bark mulch, it's not a big risk. In like, the mulches that people use for landscape, that stuff creates a little more heat or biomass. I'm not doing that. But basically, you have a plan to have a pile. Our plan is to have a pile of loom readily available, and you put it out. That's basically how heat we want you to, if it creates enough heat. So we have to inspect it, bi-weekly, Mondays, basically, Mondays and Fridays, to make sure the pile is not creating heat, and just make sure it doesn't get out of control. They want you to turn it over, but fair, basically what to do.
And what would you do, let them know if there was a fire, how would you extinguish the fire versus,
We just put
conventional
it
ways?
on top of it.
How often were you anticipating having to do the grinding part?
Once a year.
Once a year?
I mean, it costs realistically the same amount to do a week's worth of grinding as it does to do a day's worth. So you might as well just have them there for, like, the mobilization is a big part of the grinding.
so what you're asking for is 1 week out of the year?
Well, I mean, unless we generate more, but I don't foresee it being, I don't, the thing is, that if you're asking me to pinpoint a time frame, I would have no idea, because you have to work around the rest of people's schedule. But I actually have not talked to a grinding person, because I didn't really think about that. I talked to Simpsons, I don't know if you guys know Jay Simpson, but I went over there, I listened to his grinder. His stuff is older. I mean, most of the people that hire out is a little bit newer stuff, and the newer it gets acquired is, I don't really think it's that loud. I mean, I don't think it's any louder than a mechanized logging operation. You can kind of hear the rumble. It's definitely harder than crushing.
Well, like you were saying, it's not an ongoing operation.
No, it's not ongoing.
It happens for a few days, once a year.
Yeah.
Right.
And we can monitor that, we could do that outside of seasonal rental, like when, we can do it, outside of Memorial Day and Labor Day. We can.
Grinding?
Yeah, we could do it in off-season.
I would be fine with saying that. The only stipulation I would have is if we did go into the 13th month, I don't want to get fined. Waiting for somebody to show up. I mean, DEP was actually very helpful. It's a very simple permitting process. It's low impact. I mean, they're really only hazardous because you don't know where the stumps grew. So you don't know what the water's like when they grew. That's basically the only concern. It's very minor. And it's, like I said, almost, I don't say almost, I don't know the statistics, but the man at DEP told me that it's very common for people who won't get hazardous permit because it's controlled, and they know that there's people coming in there controlled.
I personally spoke with the individual from DEP, asking him that this permit was approved, or the conditions were approved, would he be inspecting the pit, and if he, it's the same person who inspects the transfer station, and he agreed that he would make the same stops when, checking the transfer station to make sure that all rules were being, and conditions were being followed, per the state requirements. He also stated that he typically doesn't, they really don't really re-inspect and stuff like that, but since I asked him to, he would.
Does the state monitor chemicals that are leach safe? There is chemicals on the stumps. Do they monitor the soil after the fact as well? Did they?
I think they do when it closes.
Right.
But the reality is, and I'm just saying this from my own personal opinion, you're taking the product that you make and you're using it to protect the environment. So there really can't be a huge negative part. I mean, it's literally a product that used to, it's the DEP preferred product for erosion control. And that's the product we're making from the stumps. I mean, I don't realize that, I mean, I'm saying stump because that's what I want to bring in there, but a lot of people don't even realize what the definition of wood waste is. Pretty much any pile of wood that doesn't come from your site. So that could be firewood, cordwood, if it didn't come from your land and it's sitting there for more than a year, it's supposed to be permanent. So I'm just trying to follow the rules and have it, I want a nice safe, I don't want any issues, so that's why I'm coming to these guys and trying to make sure it's better.
Right, and when you say wood products, none of it's gonna have paint on it or
No,
nails.
I'm not, that's a,
Different
they word
topic.
it sounds like it's the same wording, because they call this actually wood. But that would be the same thing as a transfer station.
Right,
Demolition and
demolition
They call
debris.
this wood waste, which I, in my head, I think wood waste would be painted wood, but wood waste is not painted wood, that's demolition. And yeah, I'm not doing demolition.
I think we should maybe open it up to the public at this point.
Yeah, open up to public comment now. Any questions? You can come up to the mic.
does he need a microphone too? It's-
Well, he can sit down and he can get his exercise.
Walk around with, you know, those 10.
No, just, you can sit down and then if they have a question, you can come back up and answer it. Get your steps in today.
If you,
Should we get their name for the record if we're doing?
Cliff Kenny, 538 Anderson Cove Road. I was just curious on your map up there, that doesn't tell me very much. Can you show H Road, Anderson Cove Road, roads like that on that map?
So this is H Road. H Road is right here, along where my mouse is moving.
Okay,
Okay, Anderson Cove Road is gonna be down for, Anderson Cove Road is right here. Then you have Man Road, is right into here. And, yeah, so Acton, H Road just follows up and around this corner.
so off of H Road, I'm assuming, how far in off H Road is this pit?
Is you wondering where he's gonna locate the stumps? Okay, that's a great question. He's looking to do it right here. So the map shows these,
Bodies of water.
bodies of water that aren't actually there.
Well, that was one of my concerns, because I saw the dot there, but I also saw water close by.
Right, so the water that's there, that's standing water, that is seasonal, is Moose Pond and Great East and, oops, sorry. And the wetlands over here, but he's staying, so see these green marks, that's your 250 feet buffer, he's staying within, away from,
Okay, and off H Road is?
well, that's not even the buffer, I can take that back, but
We put
he's,
that up there if you want, put the shoreline zone on there for people to see.
so he has to stay outside of this right here. And he's planning on, having his stump pad in this vicinity right here, correct, Seth?
Yes. It might be a little I don't know if it's north, but about that a little bit. Maybe more like right there.
But outside of the zoning which is required by DEP. So he has requirements that the town will set on him if approved, as well as he has requirements that are mandated by the Maine State, DEP, Department of Environmental Protection. So he has to follow both guidelines.
And all three of those wet spots are literally the road that's been there for at least 10 years. I've only owned this since March. That, I mean, those wet spots are right on the road. The access roads, like where we drive every day.
How long is the access road to that spot, from H Road, Seth? I think that was a question, yeah.
You know, I actually didn't measure.
There you go. You're gonna be approximately over 1,000 feet, 1,200. Give or take. This is a tax map, it's not, so I'm not a surveyor.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, come on up. Sorry.
So you're currently now hauling in stumps.
Can you state your?
What?
Yes.
Scott Jurek. So you're now currently hauling in stumps without a permit.
No.
That's not what's on the YouTube video I saw this morning.
We hauled in stumps. Early this, when I bought the property, I called DEP. I started the process. They took my money. I've been working on it all summer long. My permit, my conditional work permit says the stumps shall be ground on site. It's not very clear. When the code officer called me and said I was legally dumping stumps, I stopped being it. When he asked me to stop.
But you have all the...
I have, but like I said, I've been talking with DEP. They didn't have a problem with it. We were in the permitting process. And it was several piles of stumps already on the site.
I don't know. But on the YouTube video on the sidewalk last weekend, there's a new stump out that...
We did haul it, I didn't deny that, we hauled in stumps, and when he talked to me and said I was in violation of the permit, I stopped.
So that's the only reason why we're here today is because you got caught.
No, the state of Maine took my money for my permit in February, the week before I even owned the land. I've been working with DEP all summer on it.
Jason, you're gonna read the letter that you've got emailed to you.
I didn't even get a letter. If I had a letter, I would read it for you. I'll go down and check my email again.
That's from...
Did she email this to you? Was this emailed to you, or was this emailed to me too?
I don't know, I have everything else about this from recent. Yeah, the DEP when he applied.
I'll have to double check, but I've been on my email all night.
Who's this from, may I ask?
This is from Joe Keller and Allison Davis. We were writing in regards to the matter of the application for Seth McCoy's Trucking and Excavation located on 24191 H Road, Lot 207, map 207, Lot 001. For conditional use for stump and brush disposal, recycle and resale of mulch, and the expansion of mining depth per DEP. We own a budding property on 65 Moose Pond, across Moose Pond. We have serious concerns we would like the planning board and the CEO to address before approving the permits or variances at this site. Seth McCoy's Trucking and Excavating has not adhered to the terms of their prior approved variance, Exhibit A. I should make some copies of this.
Yeah, we should all have them, and probably everyone in the public should have them.
Can you go make copies of this? And, I'm going to check my email to make sure that...
Sorry, just give us a minute. Thank you. Seth, did you apply for this on February? Was it February you started this process? Is that? on
I
this,
did it before I owned the land, and I couldn't actually approve it.
because you didn't own the land, right?
They didn't own the land, and I forgot about it until he called me. But they did take my money, and I didn't realize it was a big deal.
I think it was on the 26th of February they took
There's a
your
copy in
money.
the original packet. The whole application,
It's this one right here, right?
yeah.
Yeah, it was listed as February of, 26, 2021.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, 10:28 PM, AM. You have that, sir?
No.
You want to see?
She had a copy in your folder.
Yeah.
I think there was one in your folder tonight.
Does anyone else, you want to have your question? Well, we're waiting for the copies, that way.
My name is Pete Offiero, 115 Moose Pond Road. So my concerns are that, you know, right now, the residents on Moose Pond Road are sandwiched between 3 of these pits, all within 125 yards of our houses. Moose Pond is only 400 yards long, 25-acre pond. The added stumps, the noise, I mean, no disrespect, Seth, but on a nice day, you can hear conversations on the pond from the residents. You know, how can you say that it's quiet? It just makes no sense. I just think there has to be a better way, you know, these pits are great, if that's what his business is, but it's on Moose Pond. Yeah, you brought stumps in on other properties, so the only concern would be what's on these stumps, and then if we have hard rains, it gets washed into the water? I mean, has everybody thought this process out? I'm just asking questions, just to make sure that everybody's on board. Moose Pond is one of the most pristine ponds in southern Maine. I'd like to keep it that way. Thank you for your time.
Certainly.
Do I go and answer?
Yeah, you can.
I do apologize, I did, you know, I just did. I also own land on Moose Pond, and am permitted to put a camp, so I'm an owner too. I served a public notice on, the 22nd? It was either 22nd or 23rd. There was a time period that called DEP. How many people in this room actually called DEP out there?
I call the DEP.
Did you talk to DEP, call Dr. Eric about this particular situation?
No.
Well, I served public notice and let everybody know. I posted it in the shot sign in front of the deck. I've got plenty of people that don't have a problem completely ignoring the do not trespassing signs, but they can't read the one sign that's right there in both entrances, right before the trail, right in the little trail where somebody goes in a little tractor and steals stone once in a while. I didn't say anything. I've got everything on camera. But I am not doing anything wrong. I own 1,300 feet on that too, and in the long term, that's my land. I'm not breaking any rules. I'm trying to do everything properly. Everybody in this room has to at some point do construction. So there has to be a place to dispose of the stuff legally. This is the responsible way of doing it.
Never rebuttal on that.
Yeah.
So you say you do everything correct. Well, let's back up a little bit. This past summer, we have a 75-foot buffer zone in the shoreline district. If I were to think about cutting a tree down within 75 feet of my property, I have to come to the town of Acton, apply for a permit, go through this entire grid process. It is amazing. You come in, you've purchased your land in February, you come in, you drive a skidder right through the buffer zone, take mature pine trees down that are sitting on the water's edge. Please, Seth, don't tell me you're trying to do everything by the rules. Please.
Let's start over. Those 4 trees that I cut, the tops were broken.
I don't care, Seth.
They were broken.
Seth.
Hanging in the water
You have
shed.
no right to do it, Seth. that.
So,
We don't have a right.
the town is aware of that, and we have been in contact and talking to Seth over
I'm
that.
rebutting, he said he's doing everything correctly, I'm just rebutting.
I know, I get what you're saying, but we gotta,
Right.
It wasn't dead
Seth.
stuff, we have pictures of it.
Okay,
It was
sir.
wild.
so the town, for the town, we have been in communication with Seth, we have assessed him a fine. We are working to have that taken care of, and he is complying with all that. So that would be the answer to that one. Thanks. Okay, you guys, would you like me to, I'll start over?
Thank you.
All right, so dear members of the planning board and town of Acton, we are writing in regards to the matter of the application by Seth McCoy's Trucking and Excavation located on 24191 H Road, map or 207-001, with a conditional use for stump and brush disposal, recycle and resale of mulch, and for expansion of mining depth per DEP. We own a budding property at 65 Moose Pond Road across Moose Pond. We have serious concerns we would like the planning board and the CEO to address before approving the permits of variances at this time. Seth McCoy's Trucking and Excavating has not adhered to the terms of their prior approved variances, Exhibit A. Specifically, in July of 2021, he illegally cut both mature pines and understory vegetation in the buffer zone between Moose Pond and the active quarry. This includes driving a skidder down the slope from the quarry to the water's edge, creating large areas of broken soil and setting up for massive erosion to the pond. This also includes clearing an area adjacent to the pond inside the buffer zone at least 50 feet wide between the active area of the quarry and the pond, making the quarry visible from anywhere on the pond. This violates provisions K, maintain buffer zone, I, prevent soil erosion, and B, maintain shore cover. In the conditional use application approved by the committee February 4th, 2021, it may also create conditions which will degrade the spawning grounds of game fish in Moose Pond, located adjacent to the cutting area, which will violate provisions A, no adverse effects on the spawning grounds, fish, aquatic life. Our research suggests that the damage should be remediated per main statute 4452 Exhibit B, enforcement of the land use and the ordinance below. For example, one mature tree must be planted for each one cut. The understory plantings must be restored, and a 5-year reforestation plan must be implemented as required by law. We ask the planning committee of the town of Acton and the CEO to enforce the main laws regarding this matter, including, if necessary, taking legal action to support this outcome. Such remediation should occur before any additional permits or variances be granted at this site. We understand the environmental survey and testing must be conducted as the process for obtaining a mining variance with DEP per 38 MRS 490-Z, performance standards of the for quarries. This study must find that all of the following conditions are met before the planning committee can approve the request. Activity does not lower water quality, interfere with the natural groundwater flow, adversely interfere with the existing uses, adversely affect public safety, cause unreasonable erosion of soil, and will not unreasonably harm habitats or will not unreasonably cause flooding of adjacent properties. See Exhibit C. We ask the planning board to consider requiring a more comprehensive environmental survey of the property, a quarry adjacent to Moose Pond, a pristine aquatic environment enjoyed by residents of Acton and the surrounding area, especially given the removal of vegetation from the legally required buffer zone. Please also access the potential risks, especially risks of fire from storing a large quantity of stumps and brush on the site for up to 1 year, creating a large depot of combustible fuel. We love Acton and cherish the opportunity to be part of this community. We would like to help Acton maintain its natural treasures for the benefits and enjoyment of all, including future generations. Moose Pond is such a treasure. A pristine pond with high water quality and no invasive species, extremely rare to this part of Maine. The activities at Seth McCoy's Trucking and Excavating have done serious damage to this area. We fear that approval of additional variances and permits at this site will enable more damage. We appreciate that the planning committee and the CEO are busy, and is one of the several matters before you. We ask you to protect this sensitive natural resource. Sincerely, Joe Keller and Allison Davis, owners and stewards of 65 Moose Pond Road, Acton, Maine. Residents of 134 Hudson Street, Somerville, Mass.
I'm not going to do a huge argument. I had a surveyor lay out the boundaries of the pit. We cut to the legal buffer zone. On one section, we cut 3 acres. The area that we cut the trees, I have a septic design and permission to put a camper on that spot. And I paid for the permit for a camper. There's 3 or 4 trees, 5, let's say 5, there's 3 or 4 trees that I cut down.
15, Seth. Come on.
You had to have trespassed for one to count the trees.
We're in a kayak on the side. We have to
All right,
trespass.
sir.
3 trees that I
You can
cut
rebut.
were not in the septic design. And the tops of those trees are laid, 2 of them, right in the water.
That's not right, lies, Seth. We have pictures of the trees, they were live.
Okay. Would it be better off if I gave, does everybody agree? No.
Because you've already gone beyond the boundaries of everything that's
So
out.
move on.
We should say that
Sir?
if you wish to rebut what he's saying, you have to
Hold on
go
a
to the
second.
podium. No one
Yeah.
can speak from the audience, you have to come to the podium.
And
Just to keep things clear.
let Seth say, and then you can rebut. We'll allow that to happen, but, and you gotta remain calm. I'm not gonna have, a piss and moan contest. Let's just remain calm.
You guys all have lawns on your camp, right? I'm not allowed to have one? I'm not allowed to clean up the area that the septic designer says is okay to cut? Yeah, I'm asking you.
No, he can come up now.
You want to know this? Nobody can put a septic within 75 feet of the water, Seth. You have no permission to do that.
I only cut 3 or 4 dead trees.
You didn't
every day.
want dead, Seth. Everybody that...
It doesn't matter.
Hold on,
Once
Seth,
again,
Seth.
once again, only
Once
the
again,
person at the
Seth.
podium should be speaking.
Can I,
Wait a minute. We have 9 residents on Moose Pond. We all look, there's only houses on one side of Moose Pond. We all look out to now our new resident on Moose Pond is Seth. He's our neighbor, supposedly, okay? Does he really think that he can tell us the tree is dead? I mean, we're out there taking pictures. We have pictures of the trees that he cut down. If this town would like to see them, we could present them someday to them, the next meeting. It's an outright lie that the trees were dead. They were living 120-year-old pine trees. Let's just stop, okay? This ridiculous, these comments coming from him, all right? Maybe just take a step back, take a deep breath, and let's just think about what he's asking for. Let's do a little more investigating. That's all we're asking as the residents on Moose Pond. That's all. I'm not gonna get in a pissing contest with him about what this is and what that is. We have many residents that would like to come here and we will rebut what he is saying. That's all. If I cut a tree down, which I can't do within 75 feet unless I come to the town and I apply for a permit.
100 feet.
100 feet, okay? even if it's struck by lightning, you know, I still have to come. I have to plant a tree, which I've done. It's gotta be inspected 2 years later. Why are these rules don't apply to companies when they apply to residents?
They do apply.
Okay, well,
And stopped immediately.
Seth,
Steph, hold on, I can answer this one, and I know you guys don't like the answers, because this is how it is. So me and Seth have worked on this one, we are still continually working on this one. You know, so if you read in, the main DEP rules, as well as the town ordinance, he has to maintain a certain amount of trees within a 25-foot area. That is a heavily tree, so he still maintains that point system. Is he gonna revegetate? I hope so. And the planning is for him to do that at some point. He hasn't gone the violation hasn't gone unnoticed. We are dealing with it, we have dealt with it, and we do have eyes on his operation.
respectively so, the track record with Mr. McCoy here is that he takes it to the limit and he continually breaks those laws. So we're here, so what's to say that he gets this permit and we don't have 20,000 square feet of stumps there? I mean, this town doesn't have the resources to go out and inspect Seth all the time, or all these other pits, or even the people that have garbage on their properties. I mean, so what makes us, the residents of Moose Pond, think that he's going to abide by the rules when he hasn't?
Mr. Chair?
yes.
If I may. I want to start by responding to the concerns raised by Mr. Kelleher and Ms. Davis in their letter. Part of these track with what some of the people here are raising for concerns, and some of them maybe don't. The first concern, I believe, relates to the cutting of trees. Our code enforcement officer, Mr. Sevigny, has represented to you that he's aware of the alleged violations. He's dealing with them in terms of what can be imposed for penalties, remedies, and so forth. As upsetting as that is, in terms of, you know, how you feel about the trees, the remedy for that is penalties. That is a separate issue from whether or not a conditional use permit will be approved for what has been proposed here. It's a legitimate concern, but it's separate from this. Secondly, the concern has been raised about the mining variance with the DEP. That is not before the planning board at this time. Today, at this point, we're dealing only with the stump issue and wood disposal. Mining is not before us at this time. Again, understandable concern, but it's not here yet. One of the issues raised that relates to the potential risks of fire for storage of stumps and brush, that is addressed. He has to meet DEP requirements related to that operation, and I would suggest that probably the DEP requirements related to his proximity to water are more stringent and will require more oversight than anything that the planning board will be dealing with. And I think that that was it as far as what was raised in that letter. But what I think is important, everyone here, I'm not trying to silence anyone. We want to hear what your questions are. We want them to be responded to. We want to hear what your concerns are. That's the purpose of the meeting. But those questions, those comments really should be restricted to what's before us right now, which is not mining, which is not about whether he's cut several trees in violation of an ordinance. That's an important issue, but this isn't the forum for that. That gets addressed through the code enforcement office. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. And I think Seth did talk to Chief Smith about his fire control as well, in case there was a fire, I think, right?
I did not.
No? Okay. But there is a fire plan in our packet that he gave at the first meeting when he did come.
I went down and spoke to the fire department, I told them where our ASCOM plan was. So if there was ever an event at the pit, they can go in the shipping container and see what, if I have basically something for everything that's on site.
Any other questions?
Christine Occhio, 152 Pond Road. If the pad that you can put up is 3 acres, and you say you can only, you'll grind once a year or so, would the time limits that are on the pit apply to that as 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. during the course of the day? Or would it be extended even longer to accommodate 3 acres?
The conditions, I'll answer that. The conditions will stay the same. He will not be able to work outside of the conditions that are already set forth.
Okay, as far as the pit times are concerned.
Right.
Correct.
And it's actually, I believe it's actually 7 to 5.
So what you guys see here, even on what Ms. Davis and Mr. Keller presented for hours of operation, I actually, when trying to research some of the pits in the area, because being new to this thing, I was trying to find out the conditions of the operation. Seth McCoy actually has hours of operations of 6 a.m., starting at 6 a.m. I misunderstood this one saying it says 7, but this, if you read this, it says on Saturdays, 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. But on his Monday through Friday, it says 6 a.m. to, what is it for?
It's 6 to 5, and I have my posted hours 7 to 4, when they're happening.
So at 6 a.m., he can go in maintenance and loading. 7 a.m., it starts excavation to 5 p.m. So that's within, I'm assuming he'd do that all, the stump
So
grinding.
stump grinding would not, it would be after 7. It would be,
7.
7,
For her question, because
Okay.
we're not allowed to die
right.
before 7.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I would like to point out that he's applying for just 1 acre pad, not 3.
Right.
He said he can have up to 3 acres permitted,
Yeah.
but I think he's just applying for 1 acre in this scenario.
Hi, I'm Sue Purpose. I'm on H Road. And it's more of a generic question. We talked earlier about how there are a number of pits on H Road, and obviously traffic that goes with that. But do any of the other pits have a license, have a permit to do the grinding, or is this the first one?
Seth is the only pit applying for, or in trying to maintain or obtain a solid waste disposal of stumps and debris of this sort in Acton.
Okay.
All of Acton, not just H Road or any of these things.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
My name is Mark Needle, and I'm on Anderson Cove Road, 353. I guess I have a couple of questions. One is, this can't, once the siting of a pad has been done, it cannot be moved? Is that correct?
Yes, it only, if you came back and applied for, the other 2 acre pad, you just, I'm assuming you would just carry on where the pad was, add 2 more acres,
Yeah.
so.
But likewise, couldn't just move the
No,
pad?
it'd be, no, because he's gotta bring it up to a certain, what was a certain height that you were gonna?
You're only allowed to do
Seth?
The area that I'm proposing, and I think you misunderstood me a little bit, I asked for 1 acre. I'm allowed up to 3, but you can't have a 3-acre pile of stumps. They want them individuals in 10,000, so basically, well, I'm not sure what the dimensions are, but an acre is 44,000.
Explain the process about the building the pad and stuff. I think that's what he's more interested in, and how it cannot.
Whether the location of these, the noise-making activity is going to get closer to Anderson Cove Road than what's currently indicated on this map. I'm very empathetic to folks on Moose Pond, but I'm...
My understanding that, yeah, once he builds his pad, that's where the operation's gonna be.
Okay, the conditional use
It's not a
permit will specify that, and that won't be, because it seems like there's a little lack of clarity in rules that have been interpreted so far.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure if it's not supposed to move, there is not a similar lack of clarity. I want it to be not moving if it's in one spot that's been vetted.
We will require that is mapped out, or he has mapped it out in the location. I do have, was digging through the files, and I did find a map from 1988, I believe, of the old Goldstein, when it was first came in, and they had the same thing. They actually had a stump collection, it says right on the map, for stumps and stuff like that, and they delineated a site for stumps on that map.
Okay, so as long as that map would be part of the
He will
conditional use, and it's explicitly tied to a specific location, that would be just one thing that would be good. I am a little concerned about, past violations and starting on this without a permit and things like that. It suggests some things that I would hope are not a trend. But I'm looking at the penalties, and I see one of the penalties is the correction of conditions. So the correction of violations. And so I wonder, even though this is a separate thing, whether people who come in with hands that are a little bit dirty need to come in and need to actually have clean hands when they're asking for a new conditional permit. And so I would suggest that a condition of this be the full restoration of any violation that in fact was taking place before, so that it not be effective until after the previous violation has been taken care of. Because the only time, as it was pointed out, it's hard to do enforcement, right? But one of the times that you can is when someone needs something from you, and they need something from you right now, and that's a good time to make sure that the other incident is fully cleaned up before this one can go into effect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? You guys? Anything for you guys?
So you're closing public comment?
Yeah, at this moment, I'll close the public comment if there's no more comments, and we'll carry on with the meeting. Public's welcome to stay, but if you want to go, you can go. And thank you for coming out.
Mr. McCoy, I do have a couple questions for you that I was doing some prep for tonight's meeting. What if any, water supplies and/or fire suppression mechanisms have been identified for this? Because I believe that's a requirement.
There's no fire suppression.
No, but what about water, I'm not talking about having like an Ansel system, but...
They don't want you using water to put it out.
Okay.
They want you to do it there.
That big dirt pile.
Water will actually make fire.
Okay, so that's what I'm asking you. What will the mechanism be that's been identified?
Yes. It'll be dirt.
It'll be dirt.
Did you see the fire plan?
Yep, now that you're saying that, I remember that from a prior meeting. Yep.
Because I wasn't actually sure how to answer the question. I called several other mulch yards and really nobody knew. So I asked ask DEP, because I thought it was on media, he's like, want to pile of dirt, because the water creates more heat. So it'll make it worse.
Also, water, the water starts, it's gotta go somewhere. It starts running places you
Right.
don't want it to run, so.
Well, that-
makes sense that it's just.
Yeah, that ties in with my next question, which was stormwater drainage. Is that anything that we need to, because I believe it is
Oh, it is something that,
6.37. Have
Yeah.
we confirmed what we need to for that approval?
no, are we gonna phase into Seth's part of the meeting, or are we gonna follow the agenda now?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because we might wanna wait until we, or, you know, I assume at some point we'll
Yep. Can
read through
I,
the conditions and work on the conditions, but are we gonna
Yes.
do that next, or are we gonna go?
well, you're right about that. I would ask for the indulgence of the committee, mainly because people who are here now raised the issue about concerns about Moose Pond. So
Yeah.
if we could just address that one, I'd appreciate that, and then move on. Yeah.
Yes, because if you look at, under review procedure and public hearing, letter H, a stormwater drainage system capable of handling a 25-year storm without adverse impact to adjacent properties has been designed. So I was definitely gonna ask that we figure out how this pad is gonna be drained, where the water is gonna
You can't
go.
leave the pit walls. The water can't go above the pit walls.
Well, you could, you know, have it go to the north or the south, you could have it go toward the pit.
That's what I'm saying, it can't leave inside the mine. Like,
I agree,
it's all
yeah.
around.
Well, it is something that we need to discuss, so.
Okay.
My discussions with DEP, and this isn't in writing, but any place in a mine, as long as you build that pad. So the soil actually builds, for this side of the site drains too good. The other end of the site, it is more glacial till, which is common above ledge. That stuff doesn't drain, so they want that. The pad, I don't know if you guys went to a pad sign, you guys know the pad sign? It's not like a concrete pad, it's a dirt pad. And basically they want it a certain height, and they want it pitched away. So they want the water pitching away, but it's only gonna pitch to the road, which goes to the rest of the pit. So you can't leave. It's already surrounded by a berm all the way around.
So you're gonna have it pitched toward the road, the whole pad?
It's going, when we were at the sidewalk meeting, I said more than once, it's gonna be slightly above this grade.
Yeah.
That is what they want. They want it draining well.
Well, it's something we need to look at.
Okay, thank you.
But the part I don't understand is what is there gonna be for erosion? It's a pile of stumps. The stumps aren't, if those stumps float off to Moose Pond, then we got a lot bigger thing to worry about than a little bit of rain.
Well, it's not just erosion, it's just, you know, for your own planning too, where do you want this standing water that might come off of this pretty much impervious pad that you're creating? You know, do you want it,
There's nothing there now.
I know there's nothing there now except a pile of
It's
stumps.
flat now. We were there. There's 2 piles.
Right, well,
But I think.
do you want the water standing right on the pad, or are you gonna pitch it toward the road where it's gonna go in a ditch that's gonna go to some sort of catchment facility, or, you know, there's gonna be a lot of wood particulate in the water coming off the pad that you probably don't want just generally in the mine, because that'll get in with your gravel.
I didn't put it in this plan, but since this product makes erosion mulch, I mean, I guess I can add it. Maybe we'll just maintain an erosion berm on the edge of the hill. I mean, the product is literally erosion mulch, but it goes into a hole. If you're looking at it, it runs right into the berm of the pit. So it can't go up.
I think it's like what he's saying, with if maybe doing that erosion control mulch berm around so that it can't go into Moose Pond or any closer to any natural resource from the backside, the front side, north, south, east, or west, however you want to put it, would be a good idea, if approved.
Yeah, if you want to try, yeah, I mean, it's,
I mean, if you
it's
contain
for your own planning purposes too, not just ours.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll close the public hearing for now, and then,
Can I make one more comment though? It kind of bugged me a little bit when my
No, I think we're done. I think,
Seth, I'm closing the public hearing.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you for coming out, everyone. We're gonna move on to new business, and it's, David Hebert, 55 Redgate Lane, map lot 119-005. Application for conditional use for RV and boat storage and winterization services.
Dave Hebert, my own property, 55 Redgate Lane, is in Redgate Lakeside. We're looking to get RV and boat storage on the very back of the property, which I marked on the map, large map here. This may help you see it a little bit better.
What was your property again, Dave?
It's,
55?
yep.
On Lakeside Drive.
It's
It's
right.
RV and boat storage with potential in the future to do shrink wrap and detail.
Yeah,
If we do detailing, it'll be earth-friendly, water-based products. But there'll be no maintenance, no oils, no changing, no maintenance of any kind. Just storage, wrapping in the future, and possibly detailing in the future. The gate for that part that's in yellow
yeah.
would be on Lakeside Drive, where there are no residential properties. And anybody on Red Bay can even see that part of the property. And on that side, if you're looking at that map, on that side is the other pit.
This,
Pit there.
yeah,
The other is across the street from Lake Trash.
right.
The items that you indicate in the future we may provide, are you seeking approval for those items now?
Yes.
You are, okay. That's important for us to know. Thank you.
Yeah, we expect to do them. I just don't know if it'll be right away when we do it, or if it might be a year later.
Okay, thank you.
But we didn't want to have to come back.
Right, yep, thank you. I have a general question. So would if this is approved, would your business be accessed, via Lakeside Drive?
Yes, it's indicated.
Or, I'm sorry, what about, Redgate Lane? No.
My house, my log cabin that I built is access, my driveway is on Red Gate.
So this is Lakeside.
So,
What I was getting at, is the location of this business totally accessible on public roads?
Yes.
It is,
I
okay.
don't know.
Because if it's private road, I'm just thinking, if that approval hasn't been gained yet, this would seem premature to me. Okay, thank you.
I don't know.
Yep, thanks.
And that land up there is already generally almost completely flat. There's no mature trees up there. It's almost all brush. There's probably, I'm gonna say 20 or 30 2-inch, 3-inch type trees up there. 6, 8 foot little pine tree type thing, but we won't have to cut any large mature trees or anything up there, which you can see if you do a sidewalk.
so if you look at the map, and what I've showed up here is the layers, and one of our layers is all blue, is the Aquifer Protection District. I did look in the land use chart to make sure that, what we can do in that. So for boatyard, which boatyard, definition of boatyard in our ordinance, let's put it that way, is a commercial operation for sales, service, repair, and storage for all types of watercraft. So in the Aquifer District, boatyard is permitted by site plan review. And the definition of the boatyard, like I said, sales, service, and maintenance. He's looking pretty much just for outdoor storage with the possibility of
Shrink wrap and detail. No maintenance, no storage, no maintenance, no sales, no anything else.
So what district is he in?
He's in the Aquifer Protection District, actually.
application says rural zone.
Rural, that's, well, that was my fault. I told him it was
No, it'd be
rural.
both.
But it's an overlay, it's rural, but with an overlay of, that's my fault. And I can do that change.
Because they're not allowed in the rural district.
But the overlay is aquifer protection.
So no,
How does that work? That's something that I'm still working with.
well, he's in the rural district. The Aquifer Protection District is a lot like the shoreline zone where it overlays whatever district is there.
Right, and so the way I
He's
approach.
in the rural zone.
Right, and so I approached this too was, and trying to figure it out myself because we don't have a definition for outdoor storage. Boatyard, which is Aquifer Protection District, is, so, okay, so let's put it this way too. Our zoning doesn't have, it doesn't, rural critical, it is like the whole thing. So it doesn't just stop because it's in the Aquifer Protection District, right? The rural district will go right up to the edge of the shoreline.
Yeah.
Right. So, but with, my thing was with the boatyard, he's not doing sales, service, and maintenance. Technically, in my way, it's just in my eyes, or the way I'm looking at it, sort of, let's put it this way, is it's an outdoor storage facility.
Well, but if he does shrink wrapping and cleaning, you're getting into service as well.
I
It's
guess
more than-
you do have that.
You're asking for that as well. We just heard.
Detail, I would
You do have me on that
consider
one,
a service.
Shrink wrap and detail, nothing like, no boat maintenance,
Well, boat maintenance, detailing is
no
maintenance.
engine work. I'm sorry.
I would believe, in my opinion, of definition, if maintenance, detailing is part of maintenance. Do you detail your car?
That word is cleaning.
Right.
Well, it's certainly a service.
Right.
Maintenance aside, it's certainly a service, which is part of the definition.
And what if I'm leaving that out if that's an issue?
If that's out, then I agree with you, Jason.
But even, like, so I went around with this one for a little bit, just because of the whole boatyard definition, and then the aquifer protection, and then the rule. So with the rule, it's not permitted. I even told him that, and then it came down to the aquifer protection district, was an overlay. It lays over the rule. So how do you we don't actually have something that cuts out the rule, and you actually have just strictly the aquifer protection district. So when I do this, when I put the layers on, and this is just me learning as we go too, so when I put the layers on for zoning, so you'll have, give it a second, and I guess it's gonna work a little slow on me now.
When we were looking in the book, there was nothing for storage.
Right.
Closest thing was that boatyard, which I'm not asking for everything that the boatyard defines.
I think my computer's frozen.
Yeah, well, we should look at I think the planning board should look at the definition of a boatyard's on page 21, about a third of the way down the page, and it does include storage.
Right, it does include storage. Yeah, no, and I was just, so when I approached this, I started at rule, because I didn't, okay, there we go. So if you look at this now, you see all the rule, and if I take out the, aquifer map, it'll get rid of that aquifer, that protection, but the rule stays there, and then so I'm just saying it doesn't cut it all out. And my computer's working really slow right now. So it'll stay rule underneath that, and the critical rule is the same way.
Yeah, no,
But the thing is so when I look,
multiple districts in one.
Right.
You know, that the aquifer protection district is wherever we have a sand and gravel aquifer under the ground. So we have the rural district on top, we've got the aquifer underneath.
Right.
So it's not like we get rid of the rural district by any means.
And so like I was saying, the way when he came at me first, I looked at it in the rural district, and I was like, well, you might have to look at this as just outdoor storage, not a boatyard.
Right.
But then we found out that it was in the aquifer protection district, and a boatyard is under site plan review. And however that works. And so, I mean,
Well, if you look at look at the land use chart, it looks like really it's indicated that we want it in the commercial or mixed-use districts. So I think it's for the planning board to decide what kind of operation it's gonna be, and if it is a boatyard for one, and if it is permitted in the rural district. I'm not sure we'll get there tonight. I think we should probably
And we can go look at his,
schedule a
we can
site
go look
walk.
at his site walk, do a site walk.
And take some time,
Does that pit that you wanna put this in, does that abut that swampy area back there too? Are you close to that?
Yes.
Okay,
That's part of, my property actually crosses a piece of that.
cause that all leads back into,
But this is not
Great East.
in
It's not, it's, lack of better terms, a pit,
My home on the other side of the property
Yeah.
is the old sand pit.
right,
Where that yellow part is not a sand pit. It's
Right.
the high ground.
okay,
On the other part of my property that I don't own, over there, where you're
Yeah.
pointing, is the other sand pit, that old sand pit that's running,
Yeah.
wherever that is. Across the street is the guy from H Road.
right, and that swamp is back here that leads all into Great East, right? If I'm looking at the map right. Is it? No.
So this is a sand pit,
Your house is here,
my house is up here,
okay,
right there on the map.
yeah, and this is all the swamp back in here.
Yes,
Okay, that's what I just
yes,
wanted.
that's it right there.
Yeah.
Is there, if you know, or Jason, if you know, is there any DEP oversight with this sort of operation, particularly as to fuel, potential fuel spills, if a tank leaks?
I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't looked into it that far yet, and
Especially where it's
I think
abutting
that's-
that swamp.
Right, I
would
think
drain
that's
into
something really
Great East.
important, to consider.
Fuel and oil concerns, even with storage.
Okay.
Because it's not, I don't think, would you be going to check on RVs or boats every day that you're storing?
Live on the property.
Right, no, I know, I understand that,
I
but,
wouldn't say we're gonna walk around the storage yard. every
right.
single day.
Case in say you do have an RV full of fuel there and it's leaking, would you notice it today or tomorrow, or, how long would it be leaking and how much of it could leak into that swamp area that then leads into Great East?
It actually, if you do the sidewalk, it actually can't, unless it goes uphill, it can't go that way.
Right.
That area, if I may,
Yeah,
this whole area,
Rolls down into like a hole here.
okay,
Where these lines are, the hill down to the water.
Yeah.
But everything above the hill there runs down here into this area.
okay.
which you can see if you sidewalk.
Yeah.
Great.
Gavin, you had a question?
And also in the process of clearing it, the brush and stuff, we're only gonna do inches, but we can push that right up against that top of that hill, which would also give you a foot or 2 or 3 turn.
I just had a question, whether or not you do drain fuel out of vehicles you're gonna be storing over the winter.
Say that again?
Do you drain any of the fluids out of these vehicles before you store them?
No.
I think a lot of places would, just because of the, problems with ethanol in the motors and everything, that would be common to drain them, but.
I mean, typically when they,
Are they gonna be winterized before they get to you?
yes,
So the boats will be maintained, you're just gonna shrink wrap and possibly detail, but they will have been winterized prior to coming to your facility or to your lot.
right. And, I mean, and the shrink wrapping and the detailing, if need be, I can even take that out. We're not even sure we're gonna do that. We just thought it was smart to put it in there so it wouldn't have to come back. At this moment, we're looking to do the storage lot. We're not looking to run a business as far as maintaining boats or fixing boats or selling boats or doing anything like that. We're not putting up a building for it or anything. We're after the storage lot. The shrink wrapping and detailing that we added in, we just figured it was smart to do that now, in case we want to do that in 8 years going down the road. So if that's an issue, I can literally take that out at this time.
I don't think it is yet, but I think we can certainly tell you if we get to that point where, yes, we could approve this, but not that, then we'll tell you that, as opposed to just not approving the whole thing.
You have to drain all the liquids out of it.
Do you anticipate putting a pad down of some kind?
3/4 crush. You can see that currently on my driveway. Last fall, we put that down by the log home. for the driveway, and it's worked fantastic. That's what once we take the brush off and stuff, we put 3/4 brush down, so that it's not muddy or anything like that when you come in there now. It's nice and solid, but you can see that again on the driveway off the side.
And I can't tell on this, but you, where you're gonna site that pad and store maintains the required buffer zones?
Yes.
So should we maybe schedule a site walk?
Sure, I think so, one meet. What's everybody's schedule looking like with the holidays and stuff? Well, by 10 o'clock, I'd probably want to get away from my kids anyways.
You want to do it sooner than later, or later?
Probably sooner.
How easy is it to get in there if there's snow on the ground?
Super easy.
There's,
Is it supposed to rain on Saturday? I know it's supposed to snow Saturday afternoon.
6 to 10.
Yeah, but that's the afternoon. What is it doing in the morning on Saturday?
Should be clear.
Well, we have to give notice, right?
Right, we have to give, right, so
I
we will.
apologize.
Yeah, Ashley?
I'm jumping the gun on that one.
Count 10 days from
Today.
counting tomorrow, the 26th Sunday is allowed.
No.
Yeah.
We don't need Sundays.
Everyone will be sugared up.
Then the following weekend's New Year's Day. I mean, I think we're all old enough and mature. If we want to plan it to New Year's Day, I don't think any of us are gonna go out and, get really tuned up on New Year's night. I mean, I can barely make it till 10 o'clock, so. Would New Year's Day work, or what's your travel schedule?
I don't mind, but it is a holiday for employees.
28th, I haven't got a calendar.
Yeah, we have,
After Christmas.
Virginia, too.
We'll land together. He's there full time.
28th, 29th, 30th, renewal date.
But he's there, it has to be after that.
How soon were you and your brother hoping to get this up and running? I mean, obviously, this season's gone, I assume,
We'd like to
so,
start clearing it next summer.
yeah, so it's not that urgent.
we can wait another week.
Next fall. Nothing urgent.
Yeah, okay, great.
So we can do it on Saturday, the 8th? If you guys, if weather, well, we kind of went nasty weather last time, so weather not permitting.
Right.
Yeah, I'm fine.
And what, do you want to do 10 again? Okay, so we're planning on Saturday, January 8th at 10 o'clock. And we have to give public notice and we have to notify our abutters. So if you want to speak with your brother and just make sure he's available, please.
Do you have this staked out possibly where you want to do it? Or could you do that, so that the planning board will see where you want to do even just your construction of your pad?
And we have to bring a camera person as well for transparency for, people that don't want to walk out there in sub-zero weather maybe.
It's easiest to come to my driveway.
Right on Red Gate.
Yeah, right on Red Gate.
Which is 55, was it?
55,
Yeah.
the only ones on that side, log on.
Yeah, been
It's
there.
easy for you guys to park there, because the gate, the old gate on Lakeside, we have blocked off.
Right.
I guess I misspoke that the public gets a notice of a site walk. Abutters do not get a specific notice for a site walk. They do when we get to a public hearing. So, okay.
But we do put it on our,
Yes.
we do put it on the website though.
Yeah, all set.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We'll see you on the 8th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
He'll be gone. See his brother.
Chris, I got,
Oh, yeah.
Chief Smith
Oh,
here.
1 second. Do you want to keep this?
No, yeah, you can give that back to, I have a copy of some.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you, sir.
I asked just Chief Smith to come in briefly, just for give us an idea of what he was looking for with the with the rentals, because he helped with the, last time, I guess, so some of this planning board's new.
Good evening, everybody. Jason did not tell me that it would be televised.
They like to trick people.
That's fine. Doesn't scare me. So last Last year, I met with this board to go over some stuff for short-term rentals and how we may approach some of the issues that come up with them. Other communities that are seeing a large number of short-term rentals are running into issues, and obviously we have some safety concerns and things like that. I believe fully that if you're on private property and it's your private residence and you live in it, you can do pretty much whatever you want. But when you rent that out to somebody from away or you're making money off that property, there needs to be some safety factors built into that, because when I rent that property from you, I'm expecting that I am getting a certain amount of safety and things that are taken care of, and if something happens to me or mine, that there's protections in place to keep it from being catastrophic. And so we were looking for very basic things that these properties were looked at. These properties had, safe egresses for people to get in and out of. Some informational things like phone numbers, who to contact if they need 911, what the address is, so that people are familiar with what to tell 911, what the emergency and all that. Fire extinguishers, smoke detectors, CO detection, not necessarily a call-out system, but just something to alert to get people out if there's a fire, if there's a carbon monoxide issue. Very simple stuff that would ensure that people coming to visit our communities are that much safer. And obviously that's my whole job, so that's why I'm here to talk to you guys about it.
And when you mean smoke detectors and carbon monoxide, you want them hardwired in, I'm assuming?
Hardwired, battery backup. They don't have to be a monitored alarm system like we would see in a commercial setup, although those are becoming very inexpensive now with internet-based ones. What I would like to see is just for the ability for the people that are renting to be able to get out safely and then call 911 to get us started for whatever emergency is. We know, let's be realistic, people are coming to Acton to vacation and relax, and may not always be sober or of sound mind while they're here on vacation, and that's fine. We still welcome you. So we want to make it simple and very safe for people who are not, if you're woken up in the middle of the night from an alarm or some other type of incident and you're inebriated, and you're in a strange house in a strange bed, it's a lot of factors that lead to fire and CR-related deaths, and that's what I'm here to prevent.
Did you have discussion with the fire marshal about stuff with this too?
Yep, the state fire marshal's office sent a representative down to meet with us, answer some questions, kind of go over some different stuff that other communities had. We looked at things from, I believe, Rockland and Rockport, because they were some of the first in Maine to really put some stuff together. The coastal communities have obviously been hit by this a lot harder than others. At town meeting, we received some pushback from people that believed it was their right to do what they want with their private property and make their money off it to recoup some of the costs of lake living, and I understand those concerns. My job is to stand in front of you and everyone else in this town and justify the reasons for safety and what we can do to keep people from being injured, or if they do injured or have an emergency, how we can get there quickly, respond effectively, so we can help resolve their emergency.
And you were very articulate at the town meeting about it, Chief.
Oh, thank you.
Kevin, you had something?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything you wanted us to add to last year's list of stipulations, performance standards.
I think the big hang-up, if I remember correctly, and some of you were there, one of the big issues with windows, egress windows, that might be something that we can talk about. We maybe said, instead of saying a standard that they have to have egress windows or something like that, that they have, accepted egress, so that, they've got the right amount of size door and it goes up to the right location. And that was the type of stuff that we wanted to look out for, because you read horror stories about people like renting out rooms in their basements or renting out rooms with, undersized doors that go to an alley, that go to a stairwell, those are where we're seeing deaths. Those are where we're seeing injuries, and that's the stuff that, I'd like to prevent from happening.
A lot of these older camps don't have code compliant, a lot of stuff.
Right, so we had, each bedroom should have a code compliant egress window or equivalent.
Yeah.
So you'd be willing to back off on that a little bit and make sure the whole dwelling is egress friendly, so to speak.
Correct. I think
Because
that's
people were-
an acceptable compromise. Because understandably, putting in egress windows is expensive, and that is cost prohibitive to them getting a return on investment on that property, which I understand. People look at pay their bills. you know, in an ideal world, yeah, everything would be code compliant. In an ideal NFPA fire world, everything would be made of concrete, everything would be sprinkled, and nothing would ever catch fire, but I exist, so therefore there are fires. We actually responded to one today. So, in our own town, they happen, and our job is there to prevent them when they do happen, but you guys is to prevent them before, and I'm here to assist with that.
During the public hearing on the ordinances, we had some more feedback about, you know, the lake people thought we were picking on them, and we decided to add long-term. Have you ever run into any of this at the long-term in town?
Absolutely. Rental properties in general are both ends of the spectrum. We run into properties that are immaculate, and they're, you know, they're beautiful, and they're clean, and they're well lit, and they're detectored, and we run into no issues with those. And then we run into properties that aren't. All right, and those people are making a profit off of something that is dangerous and hazardous to the person that they're renting out to. The person that's renting that out may not know that all the things that they're putting up with are wrong. And I think anybody that's managed properties, or been around managed properties, has seen that from time to time, of like, hey, you're not supposed to have black mold from the ceiling, and hey, this is not always supposed to leak, and there are other issues that you run into. So just having a little bit more oversight, more on the angle of education and correction for the safety of the people that are renting those properties is what I would like to see.
I've seen, Chief, in some of the other ordinances I was looking at, like you mentioned, Rockport or Rockland, a couple of the coastal towns here in southern Maine seem to me to have split the baby. They require rentals to be registered with the town, but then there's no language like we had developed, you know, specifically laying out requirements. It was rather a notification process. I think to address, number one, your concern about knowing where they are and you knowing where they are and that sort of thing. Is that too much of half a loaf in your opinion?
I think the registration coupled with inspection, which is something that I, as the department head, have offered the fire department's assistance with, because their office is already overloaded, would help alleviate some of this stuff. And I think the requirements, when we remove the requirements, I think we're asking for very basic stuff. Good working smoke and CO detectors are readily available and not super expensive. Good working fire extinguishers, again, readily available and not super expensive. And then the info sheet would be something that we would provide. And so along with that, and I don't remember, Gavin, does it say in there that they have to be address estimate well marked?
I think so.
I think that was one of the requirements.
I think so.
Which we now offer signs through the town for $25. So I feel that's a very acceptable price. Again, it's things that we're doing because we see problems that most people don't. You guys don't respond to somebody's house at 2 a.m. in the middle of the rain, you're trying to find their address. You go on a beautiful sunny Sunday to have casserole with them. We're telling you there's a problem because it's problems that we're running into, and we just want to help you.
Well, in my book, safety supersedes cost. So to me, that's not a factor.
Yep.
If these are things that need to be done to keep people safe, then that's part of our job, your job, our job.
Yep.
So that's the way I see it.
And there's a lot of instances in Acton's history that we actually led the way in the state, where we took steps that were many years ahead of what happened. And there's a lot of things now that happen every day that I can tell you generations ago that Acton decided to put into place that everybody followed behind because it was a practical approach to looking out what's best for their citizens.
It is not like you're asking for the moon here. I mean, these are typical things any homeowner would have anyway.
Yeah,
I mean,
if it was
this is not-
in an ideal world, everybody would have this.
You would think.
You would think.
And we're not asking, you know, bring them up to, you know, today's codes, because now we're on a different year of codes and they're more stringent than when you started this process.
Right, and if we looked for retroactive type activity, we would never get caught up.
Right.
There is some leeway though there, since this is a new business or something, there's different codes that go with that instead of just a plain homeowner.
Yeah,
I mean,
in your
you have a-
long-term rentals, there are some codes on the books that do affect those, both through the ones that I have to enforce for fire safety, life safety codes, and the ones that the CEO has to enforce through code enforcement. But we're looking to kind of fill in the gap on an issue that we see. And it doesn't mean it's not something we can't revisit as more issues arise, right? We always constantly have to adapt to our changing environment.
So if we generically approach rentals, right, with the same sort of list, that list, you're suggesting there's different requirements for long-term rentals?
I think that we generically approach rentals as a general umbrella term, and that we set a base requirement for what we feel is a good starting place for safety,
Long or short?
long or short.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather pay $250 for a window than pay for somebody's life, to be honest. I mean,
And I try to articulate that to the group, but in most people's understanding, nothing bad ever happens to them. And I'm glad that they can live that way. Unfortunately, I see everything bad that happens to everyone, so I'm paranoid.
I mean, you know.
But I still try to remain practical about it, you know?
And having a fire at my house, I mean, I understand that as well, and, you know, I've had some fire experience, and I can understand it as well.
My personal residence has all egress windows, egress doors, it's sprinkled, working smoke detectors, working CO detectors. Because I see all the bad that happens.
It's simple things that can stop a, you know, like a simple fire with a fire extinguisher readily handy, stops a catastrophe.
Which is what occurred today, actually. The fire we went to was the failure of an electronic device exteriorly on their home, and the homeowners ran back inside their house, grabbed their fire extinguisher, and put the fire out. Stopped their home from catching fire weeks before Christmas. Okay, it was, you know, vinyl siding, all the things that were perfectly aligned to have a catastrophic fire, and they were able to stop it by having a home fire extinguisher.
We're always setting at least the minimums.
Right.
The amount we're asking people to invest in this is far cheaper than the cost of rebuilding any part of their home.
Absolutely.
Or life. Or life.
Or life.
Never mind the home.
Yeah, can always rebuild.
Yeah.
Any other questions for me? Excellent. Well, if you do, if anything else comes up, Jason knows how to get a hold of me, and I'm more than happy to come speak to you guys anytime that I'm requested.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming out.
I didn't even lock it.
All right, old business. Seth McCoy Trucking Excavating. 2419 H Road, 207-001 lot. And we're back with the application for conditional use for stump and brush disposal, recycle, resale of mulch.
I looked up while I was waiting, the sound of a grinder.
Yeah.
One of them said 64 decibels, which I actually do not believe, but the motor itself is 74 in a different application.
Right.
Which is a D9 dozer, so I mean, they might not be as loud as I would have thought. But I couldn't find actually any place that actually said that. I just looked at the engine, I figured the engine was the loudest part of it. And the engine in the dozer is 74, but there was a couple of things, there were some towns that did some research in other states, and this one particular grinder was 64. It seems kind of quiet, 'cause that's actually quite a bit.
I believe alarm, and that's decibel meter.
It's a decibels of 3 feet, actually.
I think a lawnmower is actually louder than that, believe it or not.
Actually, a vacuum cleaner is.
Right. So, it's more, isn't it more of a humming?
Yeah, I would say.
You should go through this, right?
I mean, it's like a hell bunch
Yeah.
of trees. The thing itself isn't quiet, you can actually hear the hum.
Right. Because I know when they cut across from, you know, since you folks are still here, they cut across on Fox's Ridge and I could hear it, just a slight humming in the morning. You know, and I'm on Milton Mills Road, so, you know, and there's a big hill there and you could still, it's just like a weird humming noise, to be honest. If I think that's what we're, like a fella buncher. And once, you know, once you get used to it, it goes away. I hate to say it.
Swarming bees.
I don't have any more questions. Thank you.
The sidewalk go.
Sidewalk was pretty good.
Feel like rain.
Wet.
Yeah, it's slippery.
So,
Very slippery.
I think we should run through the checklist, Mr. Chairman.
All right. You wanna do that tonight, John?
We did it last time.
Should we put,
it's page 1 of 3 in the,
Which one?
yeah.
This is not about Seth, I don't mean, do we need to change or have, Mr. Hebert was in previously who had it in the rule, do we have to have him change his permit, the front page of his application? So that it abides with the Aquifer Protection District as well? Because right now he's just checked off rule.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
That is the zone he's in.
I just came across and I just wanted to,
I mean, there's several zones on his property, but he's in the rural district.
Would you like me to read it tonight?
sure.
you do such a good job.
Okay, conditional use review, process checklist, shoreline, well, we don't need that, right? Conditional use permit,
No, you're right. Because it's a conditional.
start right at, okay, 4.3, shoreline district?
Yep.
Read right through, okay. The proposed use is stated on the land use chart, section 2.7, as a conditional use. Conditions of permit. The proposed project does not, so these would be the findings, unreasonably interfere with existing recreational navigation uses, nor unreasonably alter scenic and aesthetic qualities. Unreasonably interfere with or harm the natural environs of any lake, pond, tributary system, or river, nor harm any fish or wildlife habitat. Cause unreasonable soil erosion, nor lower the quality of any waters. Unreasonably alter the natural flow or storage capacity of any water body. Create or cause to be created unreasonable noise or traffic of any kind. Conditional use permits. Existing conditional use or structure, if the use existed prior to the effective date of this ordinance, the proposed use does not change the original use. The proposed use does not substantially expand or alter the original use, defined as an increase in area of 25% or more, or new materials or processes not previously associated with the existing use. Application procedure. A signed application has been submitted. Plans presented for approval are drawn at a scale not smaller than 1 inch equals 50 feet. The following information has been provided unless waived by the planning board. The name, address of the applicant or authorized agent with completed letter of authorization, the name of the proposed development, a copy of the deed or record of ownership, the assessor's map and lot number, total floor area of proposed buildings, ground coverage, location of each proposed building, structure, or addition, dated certified perimeter survey of the parcel, showing reference points, showing true north point, graphic scale, total acreage, the required fees have been collected, independent consultants have been engaged if necessary to ensure compliance with all the requirements of this ordinance. Review procedure.
Okay, hang on, let's, we're going pretty fast through these. A lot of times there is some discussion on the separate items.
Okay.
I just want to point out some, because we have this application in front of us, I was hoping for one today that has been updated, because there's several issues with it, some I pointed out last time, if everybody has that in front of them. So, we need, you know, we need a new improved application. Currently, it hasn't been filled out for Shoreline Overlay District or Resource Protection District. The non-vegetated area of the lot hasn't been filled out, and the proposed would be the existing plus the proposed. All we have is the size of the pad and the approximate value of the project. Oh, and also, under proposed land use, expansion of mining depth per DEP needs to be taken off of this. I need to have this in front of me in a finalized form. So, I think there's 4 things that need to be, 5 things that need to be addressed on this form.
Yeah, Form 2.
Well, you were asking Gavin for a site plan?
No, his
Yeah,
application.
well, absolutely. This also, which we haven't really gotten into yet, this map right here needs to be updated, which of course will go through the notes, but also the location of the pad with the stump processing facility needs to be depicted on this map here.
On the large one you want looking at, or within the packet?
On the large?
No,
On the large one.
With the reclamation notes and whatnot.
Okay. That's what we end up signing.
Okay, so we need to have his surveyor, or is it fine for him just to plot it?
Well, I mean,
There's gonna be other changes.
I would assume he would have to go back to civil consultants, and, I mean, there aren't gonna be substantial changes, but there'll be some in the notes and some in the map that need to be compiled onto a document pretty much similar to this.
Need a more official,
I don't even have one on my guy.
Just update that.
yeah,
I think update this, I mean,
that's a legal document without, I mean, he'd go out with a tape measure.
well, I mean, we do often ask for that, yes, that someone actually
Well, one of the,
clarifies for us that what's on the map is what's on the ground, and, in large part, we do that with the site walk, but it wasn't exactly flagged out, but we, you know, we got a close enough sense for where it's gonna be.
well, that was addressing one of their concerns about it being moved.
Exactly, yeah, it needs to be,
So we want to make
the
sure-
size needs to be finalized, make sure that we know it's gonna be that 1 acre, and we know exactly where it's gonna be, so that it's, it is what it is, that we have, you know, accurate depiction.
So can we give him another, so he can write it down, he just got the thing. You know what you need to change?
So I need to, whatever, when I get on here.
So shoreland overlay district, yes. Is the property within the resource protection district? Yes.
As soon as you open it.
Then, under proposed land use,
Okay?
under proposed land use, we just need to get a copy that doesn't have expansion of mining depth on it, because we're not looking at that. Then we need so what you had, stump and brush disposal, recycle and resale for proposed land use is fine, but we don't want the expansion of mining depth on there. And then under the non-vegetated area of the lot, I'm not sure what your existing area is. And then your proposal, I don't think would actually change your non-vegetated area of the lot, because it's pretty much, where it's going is not vegetated right now, correct?
Correct.
So whatever number you have for existing would be the same for proposed. And then,
Take that.
How would I figure that out?
well, I mean, from this map, would, somewhere is gonna, tell us how many square feet of unvegetated area you currently have. If you don't have that information,
This doesn't, what I'm saying is, I guess I don't understand what we're asking for this. I'm just asking to stockpile on the spot. I'm allowed to have a certain area that's not vegetated in the mine. I'm not looking to go outside the mine.
I'm just trying to fill in these stipulations on the form. Well, what is the total non-vegetated area of your lot?
So you want me to go out there, and you want me to basically go out there and measure to see, determine what's vegetated and not vegetated, even though it's a moving mine?
I think you can put the 10 acres.
Okay.
I don't know if that's your actual unvegetated size, but that's what you're permitted through the town and through DEP, so I think that number would work. It's probably not an accurate number, but
So just use that for the numbers, what you're saying?
I guess so.
Because that'd be, it'd be the greater of the numbers, so you might as well go greater
I
than.
really don't have a.
My only point was that I don't see,
Right, no, he's saying,
like, the site has no boom, and the stuff that's growing is basically the little green things nobody likes, the same when you cut them. But, if you just left the pile and didn't do anything to it, I'm not saying I would, but if you did, it would actually grow stuff pretty much right off, so I don't really understand. I don't wanna shoot myself in the foot by saying a number here that I don't know.
I think,
Would I put 3 acres there instead?
no, because your whole pit is 37 acres, you're allowed to have 10 acres open, and the non-vegetated area of the lot, usually in a conditional use permit, you'd have, this is where I park, blah, 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 and then I'm gonna expand over here. So you would be taking your existing non-vegetated area and adding on to it. In this case, you're not really adding on to it because you're utilizing an area that's already unvegetated. I would just put the 10 acres. Because I'm not gonna ask you to measure it. I'm not gonna ask you to measure it.
Over 3, so that's why I was trying to figure it out.
Yeah. And then the approximate value of the project, I don't know, you've just put NA on here, but there's gotta be some, it's gonna cost you something to make the pad.
Well, that's what I wasn't sure what you were asking either.
Well, I mean, if somebody was putting up a garage, it would be straightforward, right? If someone was putting up a garage, that would be straightforward, the value of the project.
Preparation of the pad.
How much it costs?
Yeah, the estimate in fuel and labor and mechanical cost it's gonna take to
Materials.
create the thing.
Of course, you got everything there, so probably.
Well, that's what I'm,
right. So you just have to figure it out,
figured like if
pretend it's a job.
Yeah, market
Pretend
value,
you're just doing a job.
Job if you.
How many truckloads you gotta bring?
Yeah, I know you do, but, if you were to do it for somebody else, what would be the market value, what would that pad
Yeah,
cost?
there you go, yeah.
Like if I wanted a pad at my house, pretend it's my
You don't
house.
have to do that now, this is just something
Not
that
his.
he's looking for an update, or unless you do, I don't know. I think you want it at some point, you're not looking for it right now.
No,
We get the new form. Come in with the
right,
new form.
right, we'll try to get through all these conditions so that Seth knows everything he needs to present to us. And we did go pretty quickly through these other
Right, the 4322.
conditions. Was there anything anybody wanted to?
Well, 4322, I had something marked off before, I don't know if it was correct or not. It was, unreasonably altered the nature flow of storage capacity of any water body. I don't know why I had that checked off on this one.
Because it won't.
Right.
Cause it won't or cause it will?
No.
No.
It won't.
We're saying it's not gonna
Do anything.
affect any of these things. I just wanted to see if there was any more discussion on that before we moved on to the,
Is it,
I guess the one question I would ask is 6632, we're talking stumps, but, the original, conditional approval, it was his stumps on your current, approval. Now we're introducing stumps, same material, but it's new stumps from outside of the actual existing 37 acres.
There'll be new materials or processes not previously associated with existing use.
I think that's where that DEP permit comes in too, right?
And
Yeah.
can I say something? I went back and read that after. My obviously, you guys are older than me and been taking care of this longer, but my thought is, the reason that was worded the way it is you can legally bury stumps on your own land. If somebody were to take 37 acres worth of stumps and bury them there, that would probably contaminate the water. So I'm thinking that's probably why it says the stump should be ground on site, because they didn't want the stumps from the site, ground on site, buried on site.
Right.
So you're allowed to bury stumps on.
Yeah, no argument there, Seth. I'm just referring to one of the conditional use permit issues that says the proposed use does not alter the original use by an increase of size, you don't do that, or new materials or processes. Well, you already had approval to grind your own stumps there, but you're also introducing stumps from off-site now. And so my question to my fellow board members is a stumper a stump, or is that introducing new material?
Well, if he's hauling it in, it's, I would assume, I mean, it's definition, my definition out of my medium-sized brain, it would be new materials bringing in. Because he's allowed to grind whatever, like say if he cuts a tree, he's allowed to grind that because it's there.
Yeah, but you also gotta look at it as, is he bringing in, he's not bringing in, so stumps are stumps, but he's not introducing debris as in doors, construction material, things like that.
Yeah, he's bringing in stumps from.
I understand what you're saying, he's bringing in stumps from a new location. Right. But a stump is a stump, he's not bringing in a new product.
But the material is still the same.
Material's staying the same.
It's still the same, it's not.
I agree with that. It's a like kind material. He's not introducing a new type of material.
And not that, I mean, if there was a site that we were doing on a commercial standpoint, or even residential, really, in this day and age, if there was contaminants on the site, before that job started, there would already be a designation for where that stuff had to go, and it'd be a track record. So like that, I mean, what I guess I'm saying is, I think it would be rather difficult to try to, you'd have to do it on purpose, really, or really not at all. I'm just saying, we did a job at Dollar General, they had it all tested, the soils were contaminated, they specified where stuff had to go.
I look at it as, you're doing stumps, that's not a new material, it's not a new process, because you're grinding those stumps.
I just wanted to ask.
If you started recycling painted wood, that's new material, different process. So to me, that's kind of what that means, that he's not doing that, it's all the same material coming in. Even if it is from somebody else's place, it's still stumps. So, to me.
Okay. 6634, is that where we are?
Continue. So if, I guess I would say if anybody wants to be heard, just stop me, please.
Go do one section and then stop and ask for questions, and then we'll go on to the next section.
Okay.
Well, we should answer these.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We'll say yes, no, or NA with each one, and then we know we're ready to move on.
Okay, great. The standards listed in section 6.6.3.7 have been reviewed and found that the use will not have an adverse impact on spawning grounds, fish, aquatic life, bird, or other wildlife habitat.
So I'd say yes, it will not.
Right.
Including grinding stumps will not have an adverse impact.
The use will conserve shore cover and visual as well as actual access to water bodies.
Yes, it will.
Yes. The use is consistent with the comprehensive plan.
NA on that.
In there.
I think it's within the spirit of the plan. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I think it's as consistent with the comprehensive plan as the pit itself.
Right, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Anyone feel no?
Anything else?
Traffic access to the site meets the standards contained in this ordinance, and traffic congestion has been addressed in accordance with performance standards in this ordinance.
Yes, they were before, and there's no change to the amount of vehicle traffic.
The site design is in conformance with all municipal flood hazard protection regulations.
I'd say yes, it's not in the flood zone.
Adequate provision for the disposal of all wastewater and solid waste has been made.
I'd say yes, I mean, you have portaloos on the site for people working there.
Yeah,
In the actual,
I did see it,
It's next to, we haven't kind of walked in, so as we go over.
right.
Adequate provision for the transportation, storage, and disposal of any hazardous materials has been made.
This is where, so how long do you need to get rid of those piles of asphalt?
Asphalt's not hazardous.
Well, as it degrades, it often leaches into the groundwater, and there's nothing in your existing conditional use plan about asphalt. It's kind of like we were just talking about previously with the new materials and processes not associated with the existing use. So we're gonna ask that the asphalt be removed, but we want to come up with a time frame that works for you.
Asphalt is in the top 20 sustainable products in the United States. I mean, it's literally one of the most, people want you to reuse it. It's reused over and over and over. They grind and reuse it, people buy millions. We take that asphalt in the winter, we crush it. We haven't done it last winter, but we're gonna crush it this winter and resell this reclaim in the spring.
You're gonna plan to crush that asphalt on site.
Yeah, that's normal. I call it DEP on it. It's very highly recommended to do, to reuse. It's sustainable. People use it. It's more stable than gravel. So people can use it on their lake roads. I mean, it's part of the mining process. It's normally done. And I don't, honestly, I'm not exactly sure what your rule is, but I'm pretty sure you can bring in 1,000 yards without a permit. I think you can in Alfred, most towns. So there isn't a pile there that's 1,000 yards. It's not toxic at all. There's multiple studies on it. The only things, if you Google it and say it's hazardous, if you actually read it, it's all opinions. The actual states and scientists.
I did look into it after I saw the piles at the site on Saturday.
So you know that it's like one of the most sought after recycled products in construction, next to like glass.
Well, I know it's nothing we've talked about. It's not on the plan.
Concern of asphalt is during the manufacturing process, the first time.
Well, as it degrades, you know how the road is first black and then it becomes gray with time?
Yeah.
That's the asphalt degrading.
Yeah.
And as it degrades, it goes in two directions. One is hydrocarbons, which go and pollute the air, and the other is the decomposition of the binding agents that hold everything together. Once they're exposed to heat and sunlight and moisture, those degrade and leach petroleum basically into the water. And we have a whole list of things that ask you not to change crankcase oil in the pit, you know, or if there's a spill, you gotta clean it up immediately. And here you have two giant piles of petroleum-based asphalt, which are leaching into the Aquifer Protection District. And we'd like to see those removed, in a timely fashion.
Can you just show me where it's actually hazardous? Like, show me something official, not somebody's opinion.
You're not approved to have asphalt in this site.
I'm not approved not to either. It's a norm of the industry.
If it's not on this plan,
It shouldn't be there.
you shouldn't have it in there. It's a
Am
new,
I not allowed in the town of Acton to bring in 1,000 yards without a permit?
I think we should set up a time frame in which you're gonna dispose of it, not grind it, it's gonna be gone, and
So let me ask you this. If the town of Acton wants to grind that road to repave it, which they should on some of it, to rebuild it, is the town of Acton gonna care that much about where that grindings go? Because that's what people do when they rebuild roads. I mean, the concern you have, look at the H road, and how much it erodes into that pond and that dip before the dump.
I'm not disagreeing that the existing road infrastructure is also polluting the landscape and going into the water. That's not what I'm talking
Not
about.
permitted in, because I'm allowed, in my opinion, to bring in 1,000 yards at a time.
Well, that is an opinion. There's nothing about that in the existing conditional use.
I don't need it, it literally, let me see if I can find it.
I think, we're here to discuss new processes and materials, and there was, nobody mentioned asphalt until now.
They crush asphalt.
I'm sure they do.
So, if you're that concerned about it, are you gonna say you can't sell reclaimed asphalt in town? Because it's the same thing.
You're not permitted to do it.
The problem is
I
it's
haven't
not on
actually
your use.
dealt with anybody specifically on that issue in town.
You're allowed to bring in 1,000 yards of non-hazardous material in this town without a permit.
Well, I would say it is considered a hazardous material when it's sitting not very far above the water table in the aquifer district. I'm saying just the pile sitting there.
Approximately 10 feet above the water table.
Yeah, well,
It's allowed to, it's on roads. I'm just asking you did your research, show me where I'm not allowed to. Because I don't believe I've looked into it.
it's right here. General notes, operation notes, SPCC notes, reclamation notes. If it's not on this plan, you're not supposed to be doing it. That's why we have these things. And, I mean, we have seven SPCC notes, which is spill prevention, control, and countermeasures, 7 different notes here. That talk about petroleum.
Hold on, let Gavin speak.
I mean, you have 7 notes here that talk about controlling petroleum spills, when you know, and we're talking about just a few gallons of oil, and you have, like you said, hundreds of yards.
I don't have hundreds of yards there, I might have, well, yeah, hundreds, I was thinking about.
Gavin, I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with what you're saying, but on page 52, 5.92 in the mineral extractive industry, B pretty much says that you are allowed to, the following earth-moving activities shall be allowed without conditional use permit from the planning board. The removal or transfer of material incidental to construction, alteration, or repair of a building, or grading and landscaping incidental thereto. The removal of transfer of materials incidental to construction, alteration, and repair of public or private way or essential services. Agricultural tillage.
The removal of transfer, not the storage.
I'm just saying.
We're not talking about the storage here.
Okay.
I mean, there's...
Yeah, no, I'm just saying what we had, I was just pointing out what we had in our...
I think that we should make provisions for these things to be removed in a timely manner so that we can get this conditional use squared away for you, because you can start dealing with your stumps properly.
If somebody wanted to use that product to fill in a hole, it is not against the law.
No, I don't think it is
It is
against
not against
the
the law
law.
to have that pile sitting there. That pile will not, as soon as I crush that pile, it's gone. The stuff
Nope.
sells faster than you can make it, you just can't make it when it's warm out.
No one's saying it's against the law. We're just saying it's not, Gavin's just stating that it's not in your notes.
Under your mineral extraction thing, I don't need your permission to do it. Under the mineral extraction, it's not I didn't go out of my way to break the rule, I literally called DEP on everything I've done.
That's fine, but the town retains the right to be more stringent than DEP.
Without showing me why I have to move it.
Well, the reason you have,
If you think it's too close to water, I don't mind moving it, but I don't plan on not bringing it in using it. It's a byproduct of my job, and it's a renewable, it's environmentally friendly, it's recyclable, it's 100% what everybody in this generation preaches to do. Reuse.
What we can do, and what I suggest be done now, given the hour, is that we adjourn and not finish this tonight. We are not going to reach an agreement on this issue. I want to do some research before I would vote, so I'm going to move that we adjourn.
I second that.
Okay. That's what you guys...
Discussion?
Discussion was if we finished going through the standards Seth would know what else he needed to do
Yeah.
to finish this application for us. I don't mind adjourning now.
Yep, and frankly, I would agree with that as a courtesy to finish it, but I'm not feeling particularly courteous right
Okay,
now.
all right.
Given we have a disagreement, we've spent a fair amount of time on it, we need to research, and that's where we're at.
Okay.
That's my opinion. No, people can vote as they wish.
Take note, we made it to that point, but that point, I think, needs a little more.
Well, we have a motion and a second.
Correct.
All in favor of
adjourn.
adjourning?
All right?
All right.